Hey everyone, welcome to Locked In, the channel that brings the best college football intel to the modern fan. We appreciate all of you who've watched our channel and would love for you to become part of the channel by clicking the subscribe button. This will help us become more visible on YouTube and help us achieve our goal of raising football IQs everywhere through in-depth analysis in plain English. Thanks everyone. Stay locked in.
So we'll kick it down into the Michigan defense now. I'll say this is a big part of the game. We knew it would be going into it, and we'll see it right here with the first play. This is one of the big reasons that they was in this game, and that's their D
Mhm,
line.
mhm.
Their D line, I mean, absolutely showed out, and this is the first time they've ever saw somebody that can really run the ball at quarterback, and they absolutely get after them. I mean, they don't slow play it or anything. They go full send at the quarterback, and Jalen Milrow, it looks like he's going to break away for a second, but no. So Michigan keeps their outside contained right here, and they trip them up and get the fourth down stop right here and make them punt the ball at the start of the game.
So if you
Also,
if you go back on this one for just a second, I'll talk about something. This You would think that this is this is ninja football. Honestly, this is Friday night small time football that just absolutely works. Watch the left side. The boys on the left side of Alabama's offensive line, I will wager money on saying these fellas ain't got a clue.
mm,
All they do is walk a linebacker up, and I can tell you what they're going to do. They're going to try to split those boys. And look what happens. The tackle goes up there to get that wide man. Guard goes inside, and you got a wide open lane at the quarterback. Okay, so roll this back to the beginning. And here's what I think, at least, my thought on this that, and maybe I'm wrong. Okay, we've got far outside guy. We have got, a guy in the middle, and we have got the defensive tackle. Okay, that's three men. On the other side, we have a defensive tackle and a defensive end. Somebody right now needs to drop $3 million a year on me to coach Alabama's offensive line. Because, Chance, you've played for me. You know exactly what we would do. Center gets the inside man, guard gets the middle man, tackle gets the outside man just like he does. And what happens to this play? It's 5-on-5. If you can't block that, you need a new job. Anybody disagree?
totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even chalk that up to, oh, well, they got a freshman, Caden Proctor, over there as the left tackle. I mean, if you're starting at Alabama and you
And
can't do that,
yeah,
oh,
if you're not
that says something.
if you're not, I mean, if you aren't as an offensive line smart enough to make a fan call right there, then you got problems that I can't help you with.
And I mean, you even
And I
saw
mean,
it
that sounds
today.
mean. That sounds mean, but that's gospel truth. If Alabama would have made a fan call on Michigan's defensive front because they never sent like 6 and 7 people, they would have stopped this bull from happening. And so, I mean, Alabama folks, I mean, I'm upset for you because, man, I would expect more. I'd expect more out of your players. I'd expect more out of your coaches. A simple fan call, man on a man to the left side. You got all five of these boys blocked, and Milrow lives to make a good play. I don't know.
I
Saying
do.
when we say fan, I just want to
Yeah.
emphasize on what that means. That just means that you got a 5-on-5, and you pretty much know it's 5-on-5. That means you just take the guy, you work your way outside and in. So you know that the tackle would get the guy on the outside. The guard doesn't get the inside guy. He gets the outside guy. The center gets the inside guy. The
Mhm.
guard gets the other inside guy. The tackle gets the outside guy. You just fan
But look,
out.
but look at the center and guard right here on the left guard and the center. They both turn completely to the other side. I mean, and I understand, they got something to look at, but offensive line a lot of times is not about looking at what they're doing. It's about blocking your area. Just
Yep.
like what Michigan did with that twist stunt a minute ago that we saw. Block your area and you're going to keep the quarterback's feet clean. And then the running back can step up, and he's a sixth man. You got 6-on-5 at that point. There's no way this should happen. No way this should happen.
So running back does step up and take that guy who gets a free shot. I do want to give flowers to the linebacker whose man is the running back, and he's also playing spy. He ends up playing spy. Just well coached and a good job here. He stays for the most part home. He sees the running back engage heavily on the rush, so he knows that at the very least, I have a couple steps I can come up because my guy that I'm accountable for is locked in right now with the defensive lineman, so I can come up a little bit. Then he stops for a second. He has eyes on Milroe. He has eyes on the running back. He sees Milroe's going to take it out of this spot. He comes up. Now, 5 here on the edge. He does a great job getting off his block and going to take Milroe and end up getting the sack. But great job by the linebacker to have pursuit, and he even takes a great angle.
Yeah, so he takes the upfield shoulder. Said when you're rushing the quarterback, what do you want to do? Oh, right there. You take that angle.
I'm getting excited. Chance is going to have to lower my volume right here. I know there was a spike probably in the audio just because this is such good defense, and you don't even see it. Like most people don't even notice this, but he starts running outside just in case Milroe gets away from this defensive end. He's playing it.
Look at all.
And then yes,
coming in behind him.
17 doing the same thing. Pursuit drill.
But if you look at 17, though, he even stops to check the inside before he goes to the outside, just so there's not a cutback. I'm telling you, man. I mean, it's like watching a pack of trained dogs, dude. I mean, I've never seen anything like this.
Whoever runs the pursuit drill for Michigan, kudos to you. And Michigan players, you did this exactly right. There was nowhere for Milroe to go here.
And, saying that, 2 of Alabama's starting offensive linemen have transferred out as of today.
I bet they did.
I bet Saban told them to go home.
So they probably did. Here again, we'll see Alabama on offense, just looking at Michigan's defense. And we saw this.
Good job.
The worst thing about Michigan is probably the outside run. It's hard for them to stop it. They don't really commit much to it because they're more inside in the box. I'm going to be honest, that's what they are. They're more from the middle, work your way in the middle, stop A-gaps, and then work your way outside for, later. But look at this wall right here. And it's just one-on-one at this point. And it's like, do you trust your guy one-on-one? It's like Michigan sure did, and Bama does too. And he makes one cut and he's gone. It's not even like they're doing anything special. They're just taking steps. They're running this H back in, working outside here, and it's just pretty much power football.
Yeah, I think most people think that, at least as far as I know, this right here, how that H-back inserts, most people would call that a wham play, where he's not really a lead blocker. He's just going in and contributing to the wall. I mean, he's going to go in and it's a center H double team on that interior defensive lineman. And it's a well done play.
Yeah, he might as well be Jon Snow the way he just held up that wall.
Yeah. That was a fine job.
What a great reference there.
I
want to just say, this play does put some major stress on your 2 interior linebackers here.
Sure does.
You have the A gap, the left A gap here right in front of us, where what ends up being, we'll call him the will. I don't know how Michigan describes their guys, but this will be the will. He has to look into this gap because it's open. That's his gap. He's got to make sure that that the number 2 doesn't go in there. If he doesn't do that, number 2 hits that gap and he's still gone. And then on the other side, you have your Mike, your Sam, whatever you want to call him. I'll call him Mike. He comes up and he gets whammed, but he has to attack the lead blocker. But by doing so and running himself into the defense, we call it, he Larry died into the defense. When he does that, it opens the hole there. It doesn't slow anything down. And your safety, who's on run support,
he's just now reacting.
He just is now reacting. Yes, that's what I was going to point out. This is just, I don't know what his read is. I don't know if he's worried about a running back slipping out. But yeah, you're reading backfield. You should see that ball's handed off, and you should be coming down to fill that hole. look at this. I mean, he's a whole second late. And by the time he realizes and gets down there, it's one too late because your guy's already hitting the hole. And then also
There's
watch him
too
here.
much room to work. He just stops.
He stops and sits on his heels.
Doesn't even shudder his feet.
Bad defense by the safety there.
So going into the next play, we just have Milrow making a great play, and that's the thing you'll see a lot early on is that middle being open to run for Milrow. Say they cross right here, but they mainly go outside, and you'll just see Milrow take a step and go in the middle of that because the middle is open, and it was at the start. But they learned that and they dealt with it later. But Milrow took what he had, and they did a good job with that early on.
I think what they ended up doing, because, good for him for finding that spot. I think that Milrow learned that in order to scramble against that rush, he had to flat be going upfield because they're bad to peel back even. And I think that what they learned right here was instead of making this really radical move in the middle, tone that thing down and have a man, like if 78 stops, like if you take this back just a second, if you just run a regular old, like high school level stunt right here, don't put 7 right there. If 78 stops in that vicinity, maybe a little bit more inside, just switches places. His big old body clogs up that gap that Milrow escapes through. And that man ain't catching nobody on the outside. I mean, look at him. He's well over 300 pounds. It just ain't going to work out for him. There's a reason he's a defensive tackle. And because he commits to going all the way around the loop, he leaves that position open.
Good heady play by Milrow. He understood when the pressure was going to be there. He knew he had to go in that moment. So, good presence there, good feel for everything. I do also, Michigan has adjusted here. We got a 4-man front with, I think we got 6 blockers there. But they also know where the sticks are. And despite the great play by Milrow, we still know where the sticks are. We know it's 3rd and 11. If you're Michigan, we're just not letting this guy get a first down. That's the only thing we care about. Let him look great. Let him make our defensive line look silly. Just don't let him get the sticks. As soon as he takes off, we don't have the copy of it here. I almost guarantee you that the moment he starts taking off, you see like a robot. I think you see multiple Michigan defenders instantly turn to that. They stop on their tracks. They come forward. They're not going to let him get the sticks. I mean, look at this. You got 3.
Right there, look at him.
1, 2, 3.
Look at the corner up there. I got eyes.
And then you have a corner coming down, and even then, angles are correct. You have one guy coming outside in, one guy coming straight up, and another guy holding his ground in case he gets away. Good angles. Good response time. Great job knowing where the sticks are. Milrow didn't want to take a shot because he absolutely would have. There's no chance for him to get that first down unless he just lays it on the line. Too much game left for him to do that. So that's a great job again. Even though they got hurt a little bit, they are willing to give that up because they can. It's 3rd and 11. You can give that up. You're pretty far back into your opponent's side of the field. So as long as you just don't let him get that first down, a win. That's a win for Michigan's defense.
Say going right here, we'll see another pass play, and this time, this time it's just 5-on-5, and you get a linebacker just left alone again, and you see it, the guard and the center. Yep, same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's the same exact thing. And I'm sure that's why you had some transfers today from the Alabama offensive line. I bet these dudes are getting death threats just because of the way they played. I say, as a lineman, you work on this stuff in practice, but you got to communicate on the field. I know as a center, I always did. That's one of the people who transferred out of Alabama. But as a center, you're usually the leader of your offensive line. So, you got to make sure everybody knows what they're doing, and you got to make sure to give your calls. And I'm sure it should be his responsibility to do the same here. He's one of the older guys on the line, one of the leaders there. He's the anchor of the offensive line. So, I'd put that on his back to say, hey, I can handle this guy right here. It's like, because that's what I'd always do. It's like, I can get this dude one-on-one. You just worry about your gap. You worry about your guy. And then everybody else just takes their man, and it'll work out fine. And if they bring anybody else, they're bringing, like, say they bring this linebacker that the center's looking at right here. If they bring him, he is not going to get to the quarterback as fast as this guy would. He's not going to get to the quarterback as fast as this guy would, as fast as this guy or this guy. So, I mean, why worry about him, especially when he is just man on man with the running back? So you got to know, like, we've went over it all week. We knew what Michigan was going to run. So they ran their man coverage, whether it be 1 high, 2 high, a 0. So they've ran their man coverage all game long against Alabama. We knew they would. I'm sure that somebody on Alabama's staff or their line has watched film enough to say, hey, they're probably going to run man. And the most they're going to send is 5 people. I just don't know how you go a week watching film, or actually a month. So they had like a month to prepare for this game. How do you go a month watching film and not be able to tell what they're going to do and not be able to block it? I just don't understand it.
It's inexcusable. And I'll tell you another thing too that you see a lot, at every level. Whenever you have a passing situation like this, more often than not, teams have a tendency. Either they blitz the linebacker on the side or on the quarterback's blind side, or they blitz the linebacker on the quarterback's face side. Now, more often than not, you will see it just like this, that you're going to have that linebacker on the quarterback's blind side coming in because they want that extra linebacker there to be in the quarterback's field of vision to, make him more apt to hold onto the ball to let the blitzer get home. So even at that somebody wasn't there saying, hey, here's what they're doing when they blitz. I don't know. It's like I say, you need an entirely new offensive line setup right here is all I can say to Alabama. Now, they look good on the run, but they look like trash, on these right here. And that's one of the hallmarks of the old Alabama championship teams. They, just like what I said, they have a defense that functions as one unit. They had an offensive line that functioned as one unit, and that's what they were known for. That is not even close to what's happening on this football field.
Alabama, we are available, and we are cheaper than what you have right now. I also want to point out just a little thing that doesn't get flowers because it doesn't matter in this play. But previously, when we saw multiple guys releasing in a bunch set or close to a bunch set, we saw Alabama get really confused on what to do on the outside and who's going to be accountable for the guy running into the flats on the outside. Now, as this tight end comes up, this outside backer sits with him for a second. In Alabama's defensive film, we saw him go with him and not pass off to the safety. Just watch this. Instantly turns to the running back. He knows he has a safety behind him. There's been communication. There's been film study. They know what's going on here. So he's like, all right, if that guy goes 5 yards and he goes out and I see that running back turn to the flats, I have flats. That's on me. And he does. Something that simple is a difference from Michigan scoring 2 touchdowns. Now, obviously, that was not the play here for Alabama. It would have been if not for the sack. But even if this sack doesn't get home, Milroe is still searching for someone to throw to because that's covered up the way it should be. Just the difference between a well-coached defense and one that is not. And we are used to Alabama looking like Michigan's defense. But in this scenario, man, Michigan, hats off to you.
But, if you want to just hear the good gospel, here's 2 things I think you need to know. The 2 areas that we've talked about being spotty for Alabama. Communication on defense, which goes back to coordination, and problems on the offensive line. You want me to tell you what the real problem is? Kirby Smart's in Athens, Georgia, with the defense, and Brent Keys is at Georgia Tech.
I agree.
Offensive line coach gone, defensive coordinator gone. You got what you got.
So Kirby was with Saban for years. About 10 or 12 years, I think, maybe. So, and Keys was there for a long time as well. So, different team, different play style. They're just not the same Bama. That's what you can say. They're still great. They're still elite.
Sure.
Just they're not as elite. They're not head and shoulders above.
Yeah, we're not saying at all that they're not, and so nobody should take it that way.
Right.
But what we are saying is there's some cracks there, and I'm telling you, if you're a head coach out there, high school level, wherever you're at, you better have you somebody who can get your defensive back situated, and you better get yourself an offensive line coach. And if you can't find one, you better learn it, because those are the areas where I think you see the biggest cracks in football teams, and you see that in Alabama. I mean, that offensive line is in crisis mode every time they call a pass play. Those defensive backs and linebackers have no idea how to, allocate themselves whenever it comes to a passing situation. And it shows and it costs them.
Mm-hmm.
So about the same thing cost Texas, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah.
Going into the next play though, with Michigan on defense, you see an empty set. If we get to it.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So you see an empty set, and that man coverage reigns true here. Said you'll have somebody off there, but you'll see the man cover one. You'll see 5 men, and what you'll see here is when earlier Jalen Miller went right up the middle. Well, see what you got now is you see this triangle of defense is what I'd call it. So you have this big triangle, big gap right here. So Milrow has to run either here or he has to run here. And just watch what happens right here. Said he tries to step up, and as we talked about earlier in this week, what happens? The ends rush back, they rush deep into the backfield and they come back. What happens? Well, they come back and the triangle pushes into Milrow. He has nowhere to go. So they totally shut down that middle where Milrow was running earlier in the game. And I mean, honestly, we talked about Michigan's D line just working the way they work. So they work so well that they end up with more sacks because they let the quarterback play into thinking that they're good to run, they're good to go when they're not. Say, and that's how Michigan got a lot of their sacks, along with just pure out sending pressure. But I mean, 5 men isn't really a blitz. That's more like a pressure because you still have 5 men to block it. I mean, Michigan just does a very good job here.
Something else, if you play defensive end, if you coach defensive end, especially at a high school level, but all levels, you see Michigan is obviously coaching it here. You're the guy on the top of the screen. He obviously gets pushed a little bit further back behind the quarterback, but he's still trying to fight his way back to even. But watch number 5. He has the release on the outside. He doesn't wrap around. Once he gets even with the quarterback, he stops because he knows that if he takes himself around, Milrow is good on his legs. He's got good eyes. He's going to instantly take that gap that Chance was talking about being open. But instead, he gets parallel with the quarterback. He stops and he fights back. He's doing that to not overrun the rush. If you overrun a quarterback, especially one that can move, but any quarterback, if you are a defensive end or you're a pass rusher, you're going around. If you go too far around and you know that you don't have other guys who are accounting for you, which most of the time you don't, you're going to overrun it and the quarterback's going to escape you. Great coaching here, great execution here by number 5. As soon as he gets parallel, he fights. He pushes the pocket in. He pushes his guy further. He fights just another step to close this pocket around Milrow. You got defensive linemen and a linebacker who are fighting in that middle too to kind of just keep him surrounded and keep feeling like things are closed in. It's just good execution, good team D. We talk about that. Everybody does their job. Everybody is responsible for what they're responsible for, and they're not trying to be responsible for what other guys on the team are responsible for. That equals good defense most of the time, and that equals sacks. It equals picks. It equals just overall dominant defensive play if everybody does what they're supposed to do and doesn't overrun their responsibilities or look to do someone else's.
We see the empty again, this time with a motion across the field. And they, unlike Alabama, they will just switch off. So you'll see them roll over.
So much smarter.
Yeah, I mean, way, way smarter and way better. And you'll just see Milrow take off again, but this time, he's stopped once again. So I mean, this is later in the game than the first quarter, and you'll see him trying to take off in the middle, and that linebacker just sees it and kills it.
Great job by 32. Sets an edge, takes on the blocker, doesn't run all the way upfield. He's about a yard, maybe I'll give him 2. He's 2 yards upfield, and he stops, fights off the blocker, sets an edge for Milrow, has to step up. By doing that, it gives your linebackers and your DBs time to come down the field for the quarterback run to make this play. And it's just a great open field tackle, great execution, and Milrow goes down. And it's just good defense. I mean, we could break this down and say the same thing over again if we want to. It's just good defense.
I was say when
I'll tell you
everybody
something
plays
too right there with
together.
that linebacker who made that tackle. Look at what he does. This is 2 things that a lot of people don't do: tackle one leg and hit this dude in the thigh.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you stop a good runner. Thigh board him, get one leg.
And I mean, he ain't big, that linebacker.
No.
He's
No, not at all.
pretty small guy.
Back to 5-man rush.
Yep, and running that cover one, and Milrow finds the middle once again and just takes off.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good run on his part. He knew what was happening.
Yep.
He can't stay in there and look around.
Yeah, and you'll see that they didn't have their triangle set this time because 78 works too far upfield. Or they would have had their triangle with him being right here, and then Miller would have to run right here, and 32 just loop right in. But this is not all their starters in on the D line. So I mean, you can say whatever you want, but Milrow had a good job seeing it and taking off.
It's a good block by the offensive lineman, pushing 78 the way he wants to go.
And I wonder with that too, is if that was because, I mean, at this point you have to think that because they did limit the sacks in the second half.
They did.
So they figured something out. I wonder if that's not like by design, because you can tell that guard is wanting to get that guy's butt out of the picture.
Yep.
And so good for him. He opened that hole up for Milrow.
And talking about your linebacker here, it would be very easy to say he's spy. He's not. He's accountable for number 5. He's worried number 5 is going to go out. Good job on the defensive end, knocking him off the route. And extra points for him doing that. He's being pushed around, but he's still, hey, running back's crossing my face. I'm going to push him, knock him off if there's anything going on behind me. Great job by him. Also, your ends are still trying not to run too far upfield. They're trying to fight parallel to the quarterback, so they're doing their job. Their defensive, their interior guys fail them a little bit. 23 gets a little bit out of position because he has to account for number 5. It's not necessarily his fault. He's got to make sure that guy's accounted for. And then this is what happens sometimes when your D-line doesn't contain a quarterback, with a guy who's very elusive. You're playing man coverage, so your eyes are turned backwards. This is going to happen sometimes. You're going to give up stuff. And great run by Milrow. Still, fairly good job. I've seen this play result in touchdowns. I've seen this play result in 20, 30-yard scampers by quarterbacks who are far less athletic than Milrow. And he gets 12. Or actually, no, he gets more than that. He gets 17.
He gets like 16, 17.
So it's still a big run. And this is also accountable to the DBs are playing sticks. They do not want to allow Alabama to get further close to this first down marker. But great job by Milrow here to make something happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see another play before the half, and you'll just see this screen, which I think we'll see a lot from Washington. If you watch any of our other film breakdowns, Washington likes to run a lot of screens, and they just collapse on the
25,
screen
man,
so hard.
Yeah.
25 was a big key to this game all game long, and he just collapses. And I mean, you'll see the running back right here. Say they throw it to him, I think they still would have collapsed onto him, but they do end up throwing it to Bond right here. And I mean, people just come. And I mean, they come hard and they come fast. Say Bond doesn't even get like a yard on this. And, I really consider that to be impressive.
This is just good break on the ball. And it's something that needs to be. Go ahead.
Yeah, take that back. I want to see where those linemen come from.
Okay.
Because that looks wonky.
Guard. And then other guard.
I don't know about that, boys.
I don't know either.
That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make a lick of sense to me. Oh well.
Hey, but some people pull their guard and tackle on a jet sweep. So I mean,
I know.
I
met
mean,
people like that.
You'll just never know.
This is a great closing by 25 here. Great jump on the ball. This is something that DBs need to be drilled at constantly, which is breaking on the ball. Ball's in the air, and he's gone. Linebacker had taken an extra step into that middle zone area, so he's a little bit further out than I probably think he would like. I think when they review this, he's probably another step away than he wants to be, just because if you look at this, if this were to get out, you do have linemen that could possibly be in front of him. But even then, eyes on where the ball is. They're trained, and I mean, I don't know because we can't hear it. But I don't know if they have their D line, their linebackers calling out like ball in the air. Maybe there's a word they use. Just because you see this so often with Michigan, when the ball is let go, eyes are towards the ball. So if they communicate it, very well done. If they just know where the ball's going, if they just have really good awareness, whatever it is, it's coached well, it's executed well, and the break on the ball by these DBs. Everybody's coming up to make this play. Safety's coming from across the screen. Your corner slow playing this, and he's actually coming out. He's coming inside on the field in case this does get away from the linebackers and the safety coming up. This is just good angles, good defense, good breaks. Bravo. Overloading this left side again, or offense is right.
Yeah, with that A gap being wide open. So that's a tough one right there. Said Alabama probably should have taken it, and they just send another 5-man pressure. Not even really a blitz.
They blitz 0.
Man. Yeah. It's well. I mean, so you're sending 4. I would say that's not even a pressure. That's just a regular.
Yeah, they drop the end.
Yeah, like you should be able to block 4 sending defensive linemen if you have 5 offensive linemen. Say 5 is a pressure because that's 5 on 5. Said you got to man up your guy. 6 on 5. I'd call it a blitz just because it's a blitz. So I mean, you got 4 guys right here, and I mean 0 just comes through untouched, and I mean kills Milroe, lights him up, and it's 3rd and 3, and it's 27 seconds left before the half. They really need this right here. They send pressure because, hey, maybe we can get them out of field goal range or at least put them back where the field goal's harder. So we're sending them right here to get this stop on 3rd and 3, and they get it done. Michigan has good play calling right here with the stunt they run, and they run man coverage so Jalen doesn't have time to make a quick throw, and they get home, and they force Alabama into a field goal.
I was going to say something here. You got overload the line, and then you're also bringing the outside backer from the same area. So you got what looks like you got 4 guys coming from the same location. I love that the nose. He's a huge guy. He goes a gap over. So like you talked about that A gap, and really the B gap becomes that way because the defensive lineman or the defensive end backing up is exposed. So Jalen could just try and take that right away. Nope. The nose guard does a really good job of getting 2 extra steps over, accounts for the other gap across the center's face, so Milroe can't just instantly take that. And they also cover themselves well here by disengaging the defensive end. So if Milroe tries to take this around the edge, you have the end that has more space for him to move, and no offensive linemen are able to get their hands on him. That's smart, because if the offensive lineman has their hands on him, then more than likely Milroe is able to hit that edge. So they disengage him into coverage. This is something else. I'm not going to toot my own horn here too much, but I talked about in the Alabama film that sometimes it is okay, especially if you have athletic guys, to drop a defensive end. Some people think that's crazy. I don't think you should do it every time. You should never rely on that. You will get burnt, but there are looks that you can do it in. This is a perfect example of that.
And why? Because you have all that help over top.
And you have an out route on the sticks. You drop your defensive end to just get in the way of that. Milroe can't make that throw immediately because the defensive end drops into that zone that he wants to hit.
He's looking. That's what he wants. Down. That's exactly what he wants, and he just doesn't have time to do it.
Yep, absolutely love that for Michigan. And then again, talking about that also covers your outside if Miller tries to run the ball. Pressure on the other side, the overloaded side gets home. You bring an outside backer who's coming in with speed. You have a defensive end, a number 8, who's already very quick. And then I also love you got 94 and 98 who are holding their spots. They're holding ground.
Say 98, your nose tackle went all the way to the outside of the tackle.
all the way around to stop that easy quarterback run. Because if you can pick that up when you're Jalen, that's 3 yards. That's easy for him to get. And then 94 sitting there holding to make sure that inside isn't exposed. Great job.
So I want to say too on this one, I don't know, you may have, I've had to move around a little bit, swapping children from room to room. But something I really liked on this pass play was that 25, as it rolls out, look where his eyes are almost the whole time. He watches that running back, and then when he sees the quarterback size shift, he goes with that receiver. I mean, these boys are aware of what's happening on the football field.
Well coached. 4-man rush.
Yeah, here you'll see your standard four down linemen. So they're probably going to be running cover 2 here, man. And Alabama runs the ball here. Say where? So they run it. They try to run it off tackle, and he just takes that cutback. We talked about it before the game with how Michigan likes to do that. Well, it's not Michigan that likes to do that. It's Michigan, Washington, Georgia, Texas. All your top teams like to do this. They like to run to one side. They'll bring 45 over to help. And I mean, even look at Proctor here. I mean, they're making the lane just in case for that cutback right there. And they have it and they take it. I think that what Alabama could do a lot better here is have their receivers block downfield, because I know Michigan does a good job having their receivers block downfield. But I mean, look at number 3 Burton right here and Bond. I mean, for what they are as receivers, they're pretty solid, but you also have to help out in the run game and block, because I mean they get a block on number 7 right here, and that's at least a first down. So I mean, you got to be thinking about this stuff like that.
It's a rare case of somebody, especially a great player who had a fantastic game, worried about someone else's responsibility instead of his own. Number 25, he's looking across the formation. He's looking at where the other interior linebacker should be looking, into that gap in the middle, and because of that, he gets stuck in the middle of the field, and he gets an offensive lineman gets his hands on him, and that creates this play. If 25 stays home, he watches this develop, he sees that cutback lane, he should enter it. And he does on other occasions in this game, but in this one, he gets stuck a little bit. He looks a little bit too far, one step wrong, and offensive lineman's hands are on him. The other thing, too, if anybody talks about, well, one backer has to take on the block, the other has to clean it up, you have a safety coming out for run support. And I know they were burnt earlier, and that actually might be why 25 looks to try and stop this up a little bit more, because he's worried about that. But again, let your teammates be responsible for what they're responsible for. If the linebacker has to take on a lead block here in this hole, the safety can come up and clean up the run. If he doesn't, that's on the safety. That's not on this guy. So 25, you sit home, and boom, you're in the cutback lane. This never happens. But it's still well done by Alabama.
Across.
Yeah, that's right. If that hole doesn't open up that way, if the running back doesn't take that cutback lane, then you scrape around and you make the play from the backside. But in this one, he just, he gets a little bit too worried about what's going on in a different gap, so they get burnt by it. It happens.
The thing I would think on that is, I know that even as well coached as Michigan's defense is, it's very easy for instinct to take over, and you're worrying about, the light, because that's how instinct is. Instinct protects us from things that have hurt us in the past. And so that's very much on his mind. But the thing I think that you do in that situation, as well coached as they are, I think the next level of it, and it may sound negative, let the coaches take care of personnel. If that safety gets you hurt again, or if that safety gets you hurt, they're going to coach him up, and he's going to do a better job. And if he doesn't do a better job, then they're going to replace him. Don't you get beat in the meantime by trying to worry about his failure, several, plays ago.
Right. This is a trap that I think a lot of people get into, and I understand it, because I understand the want to make everything work correctly. And if you think that you can solve the problem for the defense, if you think you can make an extra special play to keep things bottled up, to give your chance a team to win, I understand your desire to do that. But when when you're talking about defense, you worrying about someone else's responsibility and vacating your own could be the very thing that kills your team, kills your defense. And not only does it hurt your team when you do that, you trying to do something a little bit too extra, but it also, coming from like a film standpoint, when you're in college, you worry about NFL scouts. When you're in high school, you worry about college scouts and recruiting. Doing someone else's responsibility makes you look worse on the field. You worry about your responsibility on the field on any given play before you try and go be a hero and do something else that you're not responsible for. That way, when even in regards to a big busted play, if it's not on you, let that other guy be coached up. Let that other guy suffer the consequences. You make sure that your hole is accounted for, because if it isn't, and just like that play, if it comes through what you're responsible for, that is now on you, not the guy you're worried about. So this is just another aspect we're talking about with team defense. Defense is hard enough. There's so much. I talked to a guy who's been a defensive coordinator or on the defense side of the ball as a coach for 45 years. And he always talks about, defense isn't really that fun anymore just because of how difficult it can be. Like, it's obviously fun, but there's with the game changing, the game adapting, defense is getting harder and harder to play. Don't make it harder on yourself or on your team by trying to do too much. Just do what you've been coached to do and do what you're responsible for.
Well put.
So you'll love this one right here, Locke. So this is a very good option right here, and Jalen Milroe keeps it going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
To pick up a 2nd and 15, and he gets almost 20 out of this. Say if you should show it again, but you'll see, stop it right here. You'll see this little H-back right here come across. You'll see a pull. Then you'll see 19 right here, your split back. You'll see him lead. You'll see McClellan go out like he's going out, and then Milroe just follow him, and then he reads. They all cut in, and Milroe just reads and cuts it right up the middle. So hits him where he's hurt him all night, right up that middle. And he does it again right here, breaks a few tackles and takes it for 20 all the way down to the goal line.
Yeah, this is basically just just a power read play, and what they're doing is, watch this outside man, the end outside linebacker, whatever you want to call him, when he freezes. Watching the running back right there as he's freezing, Milroe's going to take the ball and follow those blockers. Had he shot inside, Milroe would have came out and followed number 19, who's going to be blocking for him. But that's how that right there, bam. And you've even got a trapper right there. So essentially, if you really want to think about what they're doing, it's more complicated than it appears to be. That's a quarterback counter, but they run it like it's a power read. Very well done.
So yeah, especially out of split back with that little H right there. So it's nice formation.
45 is your wrapper.
I don't think I've saw them run that formation all year either, out of anything. So I mean, good on them to show Michigan something that they hadn't seen on film, if much at all. So I mean, really hurt Michigan right here, especially going into this fourth quarter, to go in and take the lead.
I think if you're Michigan here and you're trying to adjust to this, you're going to want an extra body, maybe even two, depending. You're going to want extra body near the line. I know they have five. I know they have 5 men, so you're looking at more of a bear. You have a true nose guard. You got 2 tackles, and you have 2 ends. But your ends are so far on the outside. You have a lot of gaps in the middle here. So you got extra lineman on the right. You have a true wing on the left. So you have true C gaps plus D gaps when you're talking about that outside. So you've got a lot of different gaps to account for, and you only have 2 inside backers, and you have 3 interior defensive linemen. I mean, you can, those guys are in the box technically as far as we're talking about those outside backers / edge players, but looking within the run game, they're outside of it. And with that, you got 4 extra DBs in the backfield here. You'd like to see one of them a little bit further up, trying to play that a little bit quicker, just to cause some more disruption on the line, because the offensive lines plus the extra blocker with the wing, they get to have their way here. I don't know. and I'd have to go through the whole thing, the whole rest of the game. This is obviously near the end. I think if you're Michigan, that's probably how you decide to attack this. If you see this formation again, and also you got two
Yeah.
split backs too, so it's a good formation from Alabama, especially against this set from the defense.
Take this back to the beginning after you run this. Because in going with what you're saying, here's one of the things that I find interesting a lot nowadays. Really, it's been for the last while in football. People will refer to anything that has the defensive ends in this three-man looking front on or over the guards as a bear front. And I guess it technically is, because at the heart, like whenever we say the bear front, we're talking the old Buddy Ryan 46 bear defense that the Chicago Bears ran, in 1985, at the height of their powers. But that defense was not as sparse as this, because what this is, we actually, the high school team that I work with, we run this formation a lot. And it's really it's a heavy set. It's a much heavier set than you think that it is when you're defending it. So here's what I say: bring one of those linebackers up onto the line. Go ahead and make this outside man on the left. Go ahead and put him up there with that wing on the line.
Yep.
Bring a safety down into the box and have, two linebackers, one linebacker walked up, and play cover 3 over top of this.
Yep. I agree.
Because I promise you that when teams get into this set, what they want to do is run the football. And right now, what Michigan is set up doing is it's as if they have some kind of contractual agreement that says you're going to run inside zone to an A gap, and when we're going to be here to, to play that. But you give up so much space. And to me, whichever way you want to look at it, if it's 32 on the left side, he's a sucker just to be walled off by the wing. And we've seen Alabama do that on the early touchdown run they had. The defensive end on the other side, or the end outside linebacker, whatever you want to call him, he's a sucker for a counterplay. They're going to kick him out. Just look at him.
Yep.
And when they do that, they're going to have players that are in far better position than yours are. You're going to have defensive backs, which Michigan has already shown that their defensive backs have moments whenever they don't come up aggressively and attack the run. So when they run something like this little counterplay through here, if the wrapper gets his block on the linebacker, this thing's going to go. I mean, this is as good of a front as you want to run into if you're in a heavy set like this.
Yeah, I understand, that these guys on the edge, they play defensive end. They're always on the end. They're always on the line. I get it. But this is honestly more like a 3-4 when you're looking at it. These two guys, they're outside backer types. They're edge players. And you have 3 interior defensive linemen. You got 2 ILBs and the inside. You got 2 safeties. And then you have these 2 outside guys that are basically just non-factors in this play. They take themselves out of this. And I'd like a little bit more beef up front against this. And if personnel is not working out for you, if they didn't substitute to get this in so you couldn't match them for it, that's fine. Bring a linebacker up. Push the end further inside like Locke is talking about here. I just feel like you need to have more bodies on the line to stop this. This is a good reminder of TCU against Georgia last year in the national championship. That game was lost before the first snap because TCU said that we're going to run a 3-man front against your 2 tight end set. And we're going to just put 3 on 7 sometimes and we're going to win the game. No, you won't. It won't happen that way. And this is a similar situation right here. This honestly looks a little bit like TCU likes to do, just a little bit different personnel, but it's pretty dang close. And this also looks like what Georgia liked to do. And you saw the result of that last year in that national championship game. So I think you need to be smarter with your alignment. I think you need to be smarter with the personnel that you got on the field, and just make sure that you don't have a ton of people too far off the line of scrimmage, because these offensive linemen love hitting you with a couple yards ahead of steam. That's what they're built for. They are not built. This kind of play is built so these guys can get around and get their hands on smaller backs, on linebackers after they already have been running. You need to use your speed and advantage here, and you need to use disruption on the line and advantage here to stop a play like this. A good job by Alabama taking advantage of Michigan's set. Run through that one more time.
Yeah. So say this is, I mean, just pretty much power. You'll see their tackle right here. Take a step off. You'll see their tight end collapse. But you'll just see them pretty much just hand it off to the running back. Just overloaded that whole side. And Michigan just is weak to the edge. We knew it coming into this game.
Massive
We saw
hold.
it. Yeah, so we saw it in the game, but Michigan is weaker to the edge. So I think if you're running against Michigan, you want to try to run to the edge. Sometimes you'll get that A gap, but to the edge is where you'll hurt Michigan.
And actually, in this set, you see them bring a linebacker closer up to the line. So you got 6 guys who are engaging the line of scrimmage. We just talked about that last play here. They fixed it. I mean, this is a good job by Alabama. There is a massive hold on number 25, which could have affected the play. Also, 8's on the ground. He does it, that's not helping it, the case any. And then Michigan is a little bit slow on the pursuit on the back end. Corner does a good job here, coming down real hard to set the edge. So, good job by him. But unfortunately for him, his help on the inside was just not ready. You'd also, I think 23 also got held there. I can't see that extra arm, but he did. He got arm barred. He got arm barred away from that. So it was a good job by him to not hold that offensive lineman right there. It's a good play. And then, a couple nitpick holds here and there, but I understand they're not going to be called sometimes.
This one we'll just see a wing here. So I mean, you got trips on this side pretty much, and you'll see, trips. You'll see Michigan
6
send some pressure here, or a blitz here, and I mean they absolutely come after the quarterback, and what happens? They get there. I mean, they just collapse on Jalen Milroe.
I think that was their first sack of the second half.
Yeah, it was their only sack of the second half.
The only sack, actually, yes.
And that's when they sent 6. So say they didn't get any 4-man blitzes or 4-man sacks. They didn't get any 5. They had to send 6. And I mean, it came at a crucial point in the game. It's 3rd and 3, fourth quarter. So, you're wanting to get Michigan, or you're as Michigan, you're wanting to get off the field and at least make Alabama kick a harder field goal. So you get home right here, and that's a hard field goal to make. Said Alabama already made one hard field goal, and they make another one after this to get 20. But Michigan did a good job there on 3rd down to get off the field.
I think you do well to point that out. That seemed like it was something that was really on their mind, because or what I'll say is I like to see logic behind why someone attacks in a certain way from a certain position. And I think something that you learn from watching this film closely is that Michigan really, especially on 3rd down, they really blitz in that 30-yard line, that 30 to the 25-yard line position on the field. They blitz that hard. And I think it's just exactly what you're saying. They want to put you in that 50-yard field goal range. And so I think there's something that you can learn in addition to what we've already covered, in this video and in previous ones about the Michigan defense, is that that's a philosophical thing, is that they want to put you into bad field goal spots with their blitz. And so that's something I think that, you can consider as being part of their toolbox as well.
Yeah, they're willing right here to give up the middle of the field. You have no backer presence for zone or anything like that. And right here, like really right before I pause this, if Milroe had seen it and if he wasn't so worried, I understand that there are 6 men around him. So I understand what I'm saying is super difficult. That ball should be out. Right here, you make contact. You see you have a 6-man rush. You got to get rid of this ball quick. You look at the hot route, the quick route that you should have, in your mind when you come up to the line here and you see them showing pressure. You have one route that's a lot quicker that you can get to easy. If backers, this is what we talk about, elite processing, especially as a passer. If you see a 6-man rush and you have those backers are part of that rush, that the middle of that field is vacated because they are after you. And you also know what this play is. So you have a route. right into the zone where those backers would be
Mhm.
sitting if they were playing it. Or if, in regards to Michigan, they play man a lot. So the man that would be accountable for this guy is not there. Michigan's playing sticks. It's third down. They don't want to allow anything behind those sticks. They're willing to give this up. If you're Milroe, you don't want to take a sack here. Let this thing fly. Let your guy do something in space. You got safeties who are playing the zone. One of them might be coming up to make this play. You never know what's going to happen. So this ball should be out right here. And, who knows? But instead, it takes a sack. And luckily for Alabama, they have a kicker who can absolutely nail one.
Roll that back just where you had it. A little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. A little more, a little more. Stop. Look at this. That is the Michigan Wolverine pass rush strategy. That's it. You hearing it here. This is how much you figure they got in their defensive staff and Jim Harbaugh. Probably about $15 million a year.
Quite a bit.
But you're being told right now exactly how they structure their pass rush. It goes back to what Chance was saying earlier about that triangle. You got two triangles in there. And what this is like, I guarantee you right here, this is what they want. There are 12 bodies surrounding Jalen Milroe. I don't care if you're Joe Montana, if you're Tom Brady, if you're Peyton Manning. 9 times out of 10, yeah, you might have this boy here, but you ain't going to throw that ball because you don't know what in the world to do because chaos has ensued. And here's the beauty about what Michigan is doing that they proved throughout this game. Just watching the theme that emerges from what we've talked about here on the Michigan defense. If I could have told the Alabama offensive staff anything during the game, it'd be the same old phrase that you hear over and over again. Run the dang ball. I understand that Jalen Milroe finds meaning and identity and everything else and, and trying to prove people wrong. But you know what? He ain't a quarterback. You know what a quarterback would have done right there? Just what Rev said. He'd have dumped that ball off because he knew the whole world was collapsing around him. When he's got 12 bodies around him, what does he do?
He takes off and tries to run it. Tries to run it right into 3 linemen.
That's exactly it. He's getting tackled by his own men.
Watch it. You'll see him step up. Yeah, right here. You'll see him make that executive decision. Tuck the ball and run. Right into 6 dudes.
No offense to him. I don't think they put him in a position to win this football game.
I agree. I want to point out, too, now that we've got 6, we talk about this triangle whenever they're rushing 5, they make that triangle with their interior guys or the one of the guys who rushes inside, and they let their outside rushers kind of collapse the pocket a little bit and make him step up into the triangle where he can't go anywhere. In this one, you have an extra guy who's included. So you have a point to another triangle on the backside. So there is no backside escape. There is no front side escape. Mm-hmm. It's all locked down. I mean, and honestly, if you're really nitpicking this, you would like to see 99 and 15 be a little bit closer to Jalen, but they're obviously getting pushed out because they have offensive linemen on them. There's no perfect world in defense. So they're doing the best they can to close this and not allow any escape route for them. So when you're Milroe, you take the sack or you throw the ball. That's all that Michigan has allowed you to do here. And Michigan took a calculated risk. That's what we're talking about. They know who Milroe is. They know what his first instinct is, and they know that if we bring 6 and we close him down, he will run straight into us because he will not throw that ball. They are willing to give this up for 2 reasons. They know they have safeties who are playing zone, who are watching that same thing. They know if that ball's in the air, they're breaking down and trying to make this tackle before the sticks. And they also know that they know how to get home. They know how to structure a rush, and they know what Milroe is going to do if they get there. This is good coaching. This is good execution. Michigan had this game I understand the score currently is 17-13 when we're watching this. Michigan outplayed Alabama on every facet of this game except for special teams, which is why Alabama has a score that they do currently. But as far as a defensive breakdown, this is fantastic. And other than a couple plays and obviously a few runs where their fits were a little bit incorrect, where their safeties didn't come down and support like they were supposed to, this is a great job by Michigan, and Alabama did not expose the couple weaknesses that Michigan showed them, and instead they played right into a strength.
Yeah, that'll lead us to our last play for Michigan on defense. And this is in overtime, and you'll see Milroe do what we saw earlier, which is just have that tight end come across and lead block for them in here and take off. And number 9 does a good job of saving the play here, saving the touchdown to keep it in the first overtime where they win. But you just see them right here. You got number 6 coming out. Linebacker steps down. These 2 linebackers take steps over. Have 52 right here kicking. Have 81 wrapping. And you have just like a quarterback counter, as Locke was talking about earlier. And so they ran it multiple times, and they're darn good at it.
And it's effectively the same play we saw JJ run against Alabama's defense. It's the same thing. And if you want to know where things went really bad, look at the linebackers.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a testament that this dude right here got back and made the play. It's like honestly, they're very lucky that this wasn't a touchdown.
It's a good freeze frame to understand how bad Michigan got out of position on this play in particular. One, I don't know if everyone can see my cursor, but 8, another one behind. He's really kind of even with Jalen. Another one. And also, if you look at where your steps are, 25 is entire body is turned the opposite side that Jalen's going to go. You got 28 here who's sitting flat-footed. He just realized that Jalen's taking off that way. He's already beat. You got 0 with his body turned the wrong way. He does do a good job. Great job by him coming back and making a play to stop this touchdown. But this should have never happened if you're Michigan. You cannot let this 25, here's another example. 25 making plays all over the field. He is too worried about this toss play. He's not reading. He's not looking. He's too worried about it. 28 needs to be the one coming down to meet it. If anybody is, not 25. 25 needs to be slow playing and worried about the quarterback keeping it, which is exactly what happens. So it's a good play by Michigan, or a good play by Alabama. Not great defense by Michigan. And this is what Locke was talking about. Run the football. Expose the weaknesses that they have. You've already shown that you're able to do that. And you get what, 10, 15 yards here?
At least a first down.
And you get a first down. In fact, it wasn't even Zero who made the play.
No,
it was the safety from across the field that made that play. So you just have a whole lot of blue and maize on the other side of the field that Jalen is not running to. So this is a bad positioning by Michigan. They got sucked into it. It's a good play call. That's what this whole play call is designed to do. It's supposed to get your defense going the opposite direction from where you're running the ball. Mm-hmm. But the guys who are supposed to stay home, you got to stay home for a reason.
At the end of the day, though, they did end up winning the game. So I'm going to credit it a lot to this tackle right here that saved it. So, I mean, that we saw they lost on one aspect of the game in special teams, but ultimately they ended up winning on offense and defense. They won 2 out of the 3 and ultimately helped them to win the game.
I also want to point out the pursuit angles that you have. So not that they would make it because Jalen is a great runner, but so 9 is now the force player. He's the last one to make this play. Right here near the 10-yard line, but you do have 28 taking a better angle. You do have 25 making a better angle. So you can tell even when they mess up, they do get right back into that awareness on the defensive side. So I like that. Even though they made mistakes in this play in particular, they still take better angles when they're trying to get back to where the ball is going to go instead of running straight behind and doing what you see so many people do, which is just miss because of that. They take a better angle to try and get there if 9 does not make this play. Hopefully he would slow them down so they could. So even in mistakes, they revert back to good technique and good coaching that they've had.
Well, gentlemen, we've went through the offense and defense and special teams that we will see against Washington in the national championship, January 8th, next Monday. So, I mean, what do y'all really have to say about this? Because, I mean, we saw what will happen and what Michigan will run. They ran it all year. I'm sure they'll run it again. You'll see them run the football a lot with Blake Corum. You'll see them run man defense, cover 1, cover 2, cover 0. They do it a lot. They blitz, and they bring pressure a lot. So, I mean, what do y'all think about this to wrap it up?
Go ahead, Ref.
So obviously we're going to do a matchup video after we get the Washington breakdown done. But just to tip a little bit of the hat, I am very curious to see how this defense, especially the back end and the way that they run their man, whether it's 2, 1, or 0, how they match up against Washington's receivers. Because obviously Washington's receivers are incredibly talented, and there's a quarterback, but behind Washington's line that is a much better thrower of the football than Jalen Milroe. So there is obviously a question, do they hold up as well against a great passing attack? And then can they shore up some of their gap issues and some of their stay-at-home issues, just their run problems that they had in the Alabama game that you saw? Obviously, part of what made that an issue for them was Jalen Milroe's ability to run the football. And Michael Penix is not Jalen Milroe. That's not to say that Michael Penix cannot run the football. He actually did fairly decently well with that against Texas. He took advantage of multiple instances that we will probably see when we break down that film. But despite his ability to run it and take advantage of a defense, he is not Jalen. They're not going to have a ton of design quarterback runs for him. So how does Washington run the football? How do they attack the Michigan defense, the Michigan's run defense? And then how does Michigan set up that defense for the game? I am curious about that. And then on the offensive side of the ball, my eyes are again back on JJ McCarthy. I look to see him make big time plays to keep Michigan in this game, along with Blake Corum doing Blake Corum things, whether it's in the passing game or whether it's in the run game. I look to see them have a balanced breakfast of run and pass. I expect them to execute effectively because that's just what they do. And then as a caveat with special teams, got to clean that up. I don't know whether it's you put a different person on punt return. They had 2 guys in the game against Alabama that both made terrible mistakes, terrible decisions. Or if you decide that you're going to let punts go, put a guy back there, but basically tell him don't do anything, don't touch that football. I'm not sure, how they're going to attack that. But you definitely want to see them clean that up because in a game where you have 2 really great teams, special teams could be a difference maker. So you want to make sure that all that is taken care of before you hit the national championship.
Looking at Michigan, looking at Washington, I think they match up better than it might appear at first. I think that the pass rush that Michigan has convinced a lot of people, just from what I hear of, the various talking heads, that Michigan's probably going to rough them up. And they may do it. I mean, I don't know yet. I'm on the fence. I don't really know where I'm going to land on this one yet. But I can tell you one thing that I think is going to be the ultimate X factor in this game coming up. And it's going to seem weird, but just, hear me out briefly. Washington's head coach, Kalen DeBoer, he's in a league apart. Ain't nobody better than him. I don't think anywhere. And they will have a way to neutralize Michigan, I think. Now, does that translate into a win? I don't know. But I know that they are going to attack Michigan where they're weak. Mm-hmm. They're going to work to keep them off balance. And Michigan passed the test of stopping the elite running quarterback. But I'll tell you what Michigan didn't have to deal with for a minute. Mm-hmm. They didn't have to deal with a throwing quarterback. And when you have a quarterback who can get the ball out on a 6-yard stick route in under 2 seconds, I don't care who you are. That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I think too, and they're not going to get the credit for it, I think Washington's offensive line, I think they have enough walking around sense to know how to block a 5-man rush. And truth be told, it wouldn't have taken a big adjustment for Alabama to have quelled all of that pass rush. But there wasn't a man on the field, and there wasn't a man on the sideline or a man in the box who was smart enough the other night to figure out what was going on. I think Washington will figure out what's going on. That's a smart football team. They're a confident football team. And I think that they're going to be an interesting matchup here. And that's what I expect to see. I think that these are two very different top teams. They play different brands of football, and they're both excellent at what they do. I think a lot of it's going to come down to who does something stupid.
Mm.
And honestly, we saw that both teams can just get right down there in the dirt with the biggest idiots of all of them, because Washington handed Texas that ball game and Texas just didn't get to win it. And Michigan tried everything in their power to give that ball game to Alabama. And I think that that's the big strike against both of them. But I'm really impressed with what this Coach DeBoer can do, and I'm really interested to see what that he has in mind for Michigan, because I think Michigan is what Michigan is. They're a dominant team. But I'm interested to see how he brainstorms some things for them. It's going to be a good game.
But yeah, with all that being said, I think Washington will come out and they will do what they've done all year, and Michigan will do the same, and it should be a good battle down to the wire. We'll go over it more in the initial breakdown video where we make our official predictions for the game. But for us, just breaking down this Michigan film, Michigan will be a hard task for Washington to overcome. We'll get into the Washington film after this, and hope y'all enjoy. Like, subscribe, let us know how you feel about our content, and we'll catch you in the next time. With that being said, everybody, stay locked in.